Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is crypto, digital cell phone, and currency, and they all kind of roll together. Now, before I get into it, let me give you a brief reminder. I think this is one of the most important pieces of information we've had in quite a while now. This was from our friend UB Ready, also known as Byron. This is very summarized because I spent a whole program just covering this one. But essentially, what the vision said, and it was an audible voice that said the show has begun. Now, let me just explain what I think that is. I think that it's confirming that Armageddon has started. It's confirming that the war with Russia, which is straight out of Daniel chapter 7, once the bear rises, it'll rise and devour much flesh, and that war will not conclude until Jesus returns on the Feast of Trumpets for Armageddon and destroys all of the sin on the earth. Second thing is, right in the middle of it, it says he saw a large leopard. Okay, now take me a while to explain it. Wait, I'll just explain. Okay, if you'll Google where Muslims live, pull a map down, Google where leopards live, print up a map, overlay them, you'll find that where the Muslims live, the leopards live, and you go through their eating habits, mating habits, living habits, it's almost exactly the same. So in Scripture, the leopard represents the Muslims. Well, the Muslims' war has now begun, as of actually October the 7th of 2023 it would have been. And that's not going to conclude until at least one more war, and that's not talking about the October 7th war, another war, because 5 places in Ezekiel 38 and 39, as I covered in this past Bible study where I talked about Russia and Bible prophecy, it says that at Armageddon, Israel will be dwelling safely, all of them. That's not the case now. I think she pulls out a secret weapon. I don't think it's this current war, but I do think it'll be the next one after oil is discovered. We talked about that in a recent program. So it also says that the Constitution is going to be removed, which was a question. It also says that when it was removed, many people cheered, thinking it was all part of the show. They're going to think that Donald Trump bringing in a new republic is a good thing, and I think it will be briefly good. But at the end of the day, the thing that bothers me about a king is when you got a good king, that's great. The problem is they stay for a long time. So when you got a bad king, what do you do when you got a bad king for like 40 years? They can really just destroy everything. So that's one of the things I think has been a strength for America, to typically have them for no more than 4 years, but definitely no more than 8 years before you can get the rascals out and get somebody that's righteous in there. Also, he saw 3 monitors. One was war without bombs. I think it's a war of words we're currently in. Second was war with bombs, exploding, fires burning. And the third one was people running for their lives. I think it's a perfect description of what is going to take place between now and the return of Jesus. I don't know if it's 3 to 5 years. I don't know if it's 8 to 10 years, but I do think it's pretty close. Now, with that as the background, that's important to cover. I might even cover that several times over the next programs. Now let's jump to, I want to play a video of you, and this is for you. This is Elon Musk, and he's exposing why the Democrats don't want waste and fraud to be turned off. He's taught, I want you to listen to the word entitlements. Listen to him say that word, then we're going to talk about it. So here's Elon Musk.
I mean, the waste and fraud in entitlement spending, which is which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. So that's like the big one to eliminate, because that's the sort of $500 billion, maybe $600-700 billion a year. That is also a mechanism by which the Democrats attract and retain illegal immigrants by essentially paying them to come here, and then turning them into voters.
Yes.
So this is why the Democrats are so upset about the situation, because they're losing. If we turn off this gigantic money magnet for illegal immigrants, then they will leave, and they will lose voters.
But you have president's support. He said so again yesterday. He completely supports your operation.
Yeah. Well, thanks. But that's super. Without the president's support, we couldn't make any progress here. Yeah. I mean, where you'll see the biggest outcry is from the Democrats, who are they don't want the waste and fraud to be turned off because it is a gigantic magnet to attract illegal immigrants and have them stay in the country. And I mean, you see some of the crazy stuff, like where money from FEMA, which is FEMA is an agency that's meant to take care of Americans in distress. And a bunch of their money was being sent to pay for luxury hotels in New York for illegal immigrants. And that was happening even after the president was elected, and even after he signed an executive order saying that needs to stop. So we actually made sure that money did stop going, because obviously it's outrageous that American taxpayer money is spent on luxury hotels for illegals.
Okay, so you heard the word entitlements. Let me tie that to Shane Warren's vision very quickly. Now, he had this back in 2010. He said he saw the dollar fall worthless as leaves. Coverstone said he saw the dollar go one-third down to worthless as leaves. Maurice Sklar also saw the one-third, and there was another one too. Now, he said it was caused by oil sales being sold in another currency. If you look at the background today, we're talking about currency today. And also, Coverstone said one of the first signs of the fall of the dollar would be when they started getting rid of the coins. Well, Trump just did that, 2 weeks ago? No more pennies? Okay, we're going to hear it pretty soon. The rest of the coins, and then the $1, the $5 bills will go away, and eventually we'll go right to a digital currency, which is going to be one of the major things I talk about today. On to the next one. Oil sales and other currencies started June 9th of 2024, so we are now in that vision. Also, he was told that silver would skyrocket far more than gold. He saw people riding with signs, "Give us our entitlements." Well, with Elon Musk specifically saying he's cutting entitlements, and I want to believe that Elon Musk is a good guy. I want to believe that he didn't snooker Donald Trump into getting in a position to where he could do damage in America, but with the prophecies, it appears that's exactly what's happened. Civil war within our borders over the devaluing of our money. There's a lot of things going on, like I've never seen in my lifetime. Could we see the dollar devalued here very shortly? Yes, we could. Also, we know that if America splits Israel, God isn't going to split America from the Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. We're praying that won't happen, but it is part of a prophecy given to Leslie 22 years ago. And sad to say, it's probably going to happen. Then there's an earthquake in the New Madrid Fault. Now, we're still on entitlements. Another headline: Musk eyes Social Security entitlements for cuts amid widespread fraud. So he says openly he is targeting Social Security, which needs to be cleaned up. I agree. Among the federal government programs rife with fraud, we all totally agree that, suggesting there will be a primary target in his crusade to reduce government spending. Okay, so if Trump is a good guy, then hopefully he will go into Social Security, the IRS, and all the rest of them, and clean the fraud and the abuse out of it. But what if he's really not a good guy? He's in a position, as I've talked about. I'm suspicious. I don't necessarily trust him. A billionaire entrepreneur, so get this picture, who's advising President Donald Trump, is now saying, this is Musk, suggesting $500 billion to $700 billion in waste needed to be cut out of just Social Security. Now, you and I probably heard it for a long time. Social Security is supposed to go bankrupt here in the next few years. We don't want that. Well, we see that probably some cuts and cleaning up is imperative. But here's the problem. Most of the federal spending, these are Musk's words, most of the federal spending is entitlements. Musk said in a televised interview that's the big one to eliminate. So he's openly saying he wants to get rid of entitlements. What are entitlements? Well, let me tell you about a couple of good ones. I paid, probably you paid, into Social Security. I didn't have a choice. I had to for many, many years. It was like $7,000 a year. And now I get an amount every month. So I kind of feel like it's giving me my money. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you a story. So I wasn't going to get it. And Leslie called to get hers, and she was talking to the lady on the phone. She says, "You need to listen to this lady," handed me the phone. She says, "Let me explain. This is your money, and the government doesn't need it. And I've worked it out. Me and some of the other girls here in the office, we worked it out. And it's actually better to your advantage not to wait a few more years so that you get a little bit more per month." She says, "It is to your advantage to get your Social Security as soon as you possibly can." She said, "I'll just tell you." This is 2 or 3 years ago. She says, "As a matter of fact, right now I can give you $7,000. I said, "You have my attention." And so they sent me $7,000, and then I get a check every month. Now, I feel like I'm entitled to that. But the problem is there's a lot of people out there like illegal aliens, and they've been getting free food, free housing, put up in some pretty nice hotels. I can see where they also would feel like they are entitled to it. Now, you and I would say, no, you're not entitled to free money that was paid in by me and my tax money. You're not entitled to that. But Jeremiah 51 says, "I will fill her with men as with caterpillars, and they shall lift up a shout against thee." What's the shout? I think this is it. This is part of the complaining. I think Biden and the Democrats let these illegal aliens in because they would turn to Democrat supporters, Democrat voters, and that means that the Democrats would never lose again. That didn't work out exactly that way so far, but that was their plan. Now, let's move on. I want to play another one. This is where they're talking about, this is Donald Trump. Yeah, part of it's kind of hard to hear, but he's talking about how there could be a recession. Watch what he says. It's short.
And yesterday, President Trump was asked if he's worried that we could see a recession, and he said we could see a period of transition.
I think the tariffs are going to be the greatest thing we've ever done as a country. It's going to make our country rich again. We have many companies, as you know, auto companies are opening up plants now, and 4 or 5 announced already, but many more are coming. All I know is this: we're going to take in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, and we're going to become so rich, you're not going to know where to spend all that money. I'm telling you, you just watch. We're going to have jobs, we're going to have open factories, it's going to be great.
So there could be a recession, and it could be starting pretty soon. Now let's go on to the next one. Trump names cryptocurrencies to be a strategic reserve, and the price of the cryptocurrencies spike. Now, the federal government is not jumping out and buying cryptocurrencies. The article goes on to explain that these are assets that they have confiscated from people being arrested and drug lords and things like that. But as a result of that, now here's my point. Trump has come out with his own cryptocurrency. This is him. He's buddied up to the cryptocurrencies. Now, what's a cryptocurrency? It's a digital something on a computer. Okay, well, that's part of the problem. If it can be created by man, it can be recreated by man. And so just as with the flick of a mouse, a few keystrokes, all of a sudden now they can make money out of thin air. Well, that's the problem that we have right now when we allowed the Federal Reserve to take over our currency in 1913. So the assets rose because Trump is doing this from 10 to 35%. There's a lot of people that think that cryptocurrencies are a good thing. Now, I'm going to tell you, and I'm not a financial expert here. Okay, so I'll give you a disclaimer. I'm a prophecy teacher. I'm a prophecy student, but I don't think crypto is a very good place to have your money. Yes, we've all seen it go up crazy, but we've also, and the thing of it is when people make money, they squawk real loud. But when they lose money, they're quiet. And for every time somebody makes money, somebody else lost money. So what you're not hearing in the crypto world is how many people lost money. Since it's not asset backed, that means some evil person with a keyboard can rip you off. So as for me, don't get me wrong, we take donations in cryptocurrencies, and there is a place with Genesis Gold, prophecyclubgold.com, and I forget the other place, I'll show you in just a second, where you can turn your crypto into gold and silver. And of course, I think that's a very good idea, which is why we promote that. All right, let's go on to the next one. We're talking about CBDC. We're talking about digital currencies today. Headline is Euro CBDC comes October 25, at least in Europe. That's what this is saying. Now, the digital currency is so that no man might buy or sell save he had the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. Meaning, we're talking about a global digital currency system that everybody gets on to buy and sell. Okay, so if you can't get in between the buyer and the seller, you can never have a mark of the beast. Well, we're going to have a mark of the beast. So obviously there's a plan, there's a way they can get between the buyer and seller to arrange or to stop that transaction. In other words, so that no man might buy or sell save he had the mark of the name of the beast or the number of his name. So this is telling you that at least in Europe, they're planning on having a digital currency by October 2025. So what does that mean? Well, it tells me, the prophecy student, that the mark of the beast is not far behind. Because if Europe does it, the rest of the world is going to do it. China's already in it. Okay, that's a pretty big player. So, and Trump signed an executive order that said there will be no CBDC from the Federal Reserve in America. Well, good luck with that, because it is coming. One way or another, digital currency is coming. Next article, Trump's trade threats are starting to hit Canadian credit market. We're talking about finances today. Investors are demanding a higher premium to hold loonie debt. I had to look up what's loonie debt. I never heard that. It's the Canadian dollar. It's slang for what Canadians call their dollar, loonie debt. So it goes on to say the tariff thrown down between Donald Trump and Justin Trudeau has slowed Canadian corporate bond sales to a trickle. Now, I checked with Jonathan Rose of Genesis Gold. He said this absolutely will not touch America at all. But what it does say is that Canada is in trouble because, it's been said that if America sneezes, the rest of the world gets pneumonia. So when Trump is putting on these tariffs on Canada, these big bankers come along and say, you're going to have to back up those bonds a lot more. So Canadians having to sell a bunch of corporate bonds, and I'm not a financial expert here. I could be getting this wrong, but I think I'm right. They're having to go and sell a bunch of corporate bonds to fill in the gap for where they have to back up more of their bonds, because a lot of the investors saying, look, your bonds are just not that good anymore because of Donald Trump. He goes on to say, investors demand a higher premium to hold loonie debt, or Canadian dollars. United States President's looming 25% tariff on Canadian goods, which briefly took effect last week before being paused until April 2nd, threatens to send the Canadian economy spiraling into recession. It goes on to say, one could infer that the trade war is already impacting the ability of Canadian corporates to fund at competitive levels in the domestic market. In other words, Canada is already feeling the difficulty. They're already feeling the heat. The nation's greater dependence upon cross-border trade with the U.S. is hurting Canada. And finally, the Canadian bond market has also been reactionary to the constant tariff news flow, and this additional volatility has made Canadian issuance more difficult. The Canadians are getting scared. And I can bring up a lot of articles, but I think I made my point. Government of Canada plans to issue U.S. dollar global bond. This is from the Department of Finance from the Government of Canada, and they're saying we're going to have to launch this U.S. dollar denominated global bond tomorrow. So by the time you watch this, the bond will already be out, meaning launching a global bond provides funds to supplement where they're lacking in the other areas. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but I read it, I think, and I called Jonathan Rose about it. I think I got it here. Okay, now let's talk about the second topic, new digital checkbook. I covered this. I wish I'd made a note of the date. I can look it up in my emails. But it was a couple of years ago. So this is an 11-year-old child that had this dream, and this says, I do not have a confirming dream, but it lines up with everything else, so I'm going to put it out again. I think it's very powerful. I cannot tell you how many times this particular dream I've remembered this dream in explaining several things. And I think it is accurate, even though I only have one backing this up. In a dream, the child, 11-year-old child, says, I'm over at my grandfather's house, and he wakes and has a t-shirt on that says, cash is king. What's it saying? It's saying that we're about to go to a digital system, and you're going to wish you had some cash. Now, even better than cash, as in coins and paper, is going to be gold and silver, obviously. Grandpa's favorite saying was, cash is king. In the dream, I sensed that the dollar bill had crashed, and no, it was no good anymore. Then the dream cuts to people walking on the street with nice clothes on, but I knew money-wise they were poor. Somehow I knew this was a depression. Like in history books, only people had nice clothes instead of old clothes, meaning no warning. It happens overnight. I saw in the people's hands an electronic device about the size of a cell phone. Okay, la-di-da, all right? If you turn it sideways, it was a checkbook, but it was all digital. I've never seen anything like it. It was like an iPad and a cell phone all mixed together, but it was not a cell phone. You couldn't play games or apps or make a phone call. It was strictly for currency. You could buy anything if you had enough of this digital currency, but you could not sell anything. Now, I believe that it will eventually become buy and sell, obviously. Now, I'm going to give you something that's a rumor. I cannot prove what I'm about to say, and I certainly can't prove that it's going to be a Tesla phone. But I put those up to just help you kind of complete the thought. And then we'll get back to the dream in a second. The report was that there's already this is an email that came to me, already 7 billion of this particular digital, not really phone, but digital checkbook already made. It will fingerprint, face print, voice print constantly. You can't put a cover on it like this. Okay, this has a cover. You can't put a cover on it because it's always taking your fingerprints, your voice print, your face recognition. It's always doing it. You can't turn it off. It's not for phone calls, games, only currency exchange. Again, I don't have proof of that yet. Now, back to the dream. Not everybody had equal amounts of this new currency. Only people like President Biden or Elon Musk or very, very famous people had a lot of this new digital currency. Only a few of your average people had very little, just enough digital currency to buy basics for one day of their lives. Isn't that straight out of Revelation chapter 6, where it says a measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see there hurt not the oil in the wine? One of the definitions of that is it's basically saying you work all day long just to get enough money to buy food for that day. Can't get ahead. Dream cuts back to Grandpa. My grandpa says to himself while looking out the window, there's no way this is happening. There are too many rules in place. But the dream cuts again, and me and Grandpa are in a war zone. I said, Grandpa, get down because people are shooting at us. The soldiers had blonde hair and blue eyes with very pale skin. I cannot tell what country they were from. We had dived into a trench with American soldiers, but the foreigners captured our area and took Grandpa prisoner. Somehow they knew that he had a lot of this cash. I was lying in the trench scared. Somehow I knew Grandpa had died of stress and felt bad for my grandpa the dream ended. Now let's jump to another one that kind of confirms it. This is Brandon Biggs. This is the guy that saw Trump shot in the ear 3 months before it happened. The Lord showed me an American flag. The flag was transformed into a $100 bill, cover stone, and there was another guy that saw the same thing, okay? A $100 bill waving in the wind, suddenly it transformed into a digital code, almost like crypto code. It was moving like it was alive. It was like internet math code. It kept moving, and I said, Lord, what is this? The Lord said, the dollar's about to turn into a digital dollar. I hope you're listening. He said it will be worth half what it's worth right now. So a $100 bill will be worth $50. Then he showed me the banks all went bankrupt. All the money that was in the banks, whether you're rich or poor, the banks seized it all. Yesterday, I got a notice, I'll even tell you what bank, from Wells Fargo, and it said, we've changed our policy concerning blah, 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 and we no longer back it up with FDIC. I think that the banks are getting ready for a big confiscation. Now, I can't prove that. I think that there will be a day, and that's what this prophecy says, that the banks will just take all of your money in the bank. All the money of the banks was seized. It was now the property of the bank. And I don't know how, but somehow they seized all the money of the banks. People lost it all. ProphecyClubGold.com. Loans that you have made on your house, your cars, everything, I saw that they took all of it. They called it a debt jubilee. Because they couldn't foreclose and take everybody's houses and everybody's cars because the dollar crashed, they simply wiped it all out and created a whole new digital platform. And that's what I can't talk about. But I happen to know that that is accurate. They created a new digital dollar. Then the Lord showed me lines of people standing at Target stores trying to get food. Okay, well, we got 12 people, had dreams or visions or audible voices, said food shortage is coming. josephskitchen.com. They weren't dressed like they were in poverty-looking clothes. They still had on nice clothes. It was like the money simply left suddenly. It was just like everything happened overnight. People were in lines at Target and Walmart. Lines were like a mile long. There was no products. There was no food there. There was hardly anything left in the stores. The people were waiting just to get whatever they could. I could see them all in a single file line that stretched forever. He showed me certain cryptocurrencies that would go up in value. Again, we're not recommending, no financial advice here, okay? He showed me certain things that would happen with gold and with silver. He showed me the euro. The euro would be in trouble because of what was going on in Europe in this Ukraine war. It was all going to happen like dominoes falling one after another. Did the first domino just fall?